So we have, one such storyteller has met us along the way. The first time he came up on stage, it was for a 5-sentence story, and he came fully prepared with a bag of props. It was for, the song was A Few of My Favorite Things. We'd never met this guy before, and he comes up on stage, and it was like the cat in the hat. He kept pulling kazoos and all kinds of horns, and he played each one on stage, and that was Mitch Mayer, and we ended up calling him the mayor of VoiceBox. He's here tonight with a story for us, so please give it up for Mitch Mayer.
Oh my God, all this help. Raise it up a bit more. How much do they have? Remember John Cleese? I'm 6'5" and I do as I like. Well, anyway, Wolfman Jerry used to show up at my friend's garage, Collision Experts. Just one of the colorful characters who would burst through the office door of the shop. Jerry was a Chicago guy, to be sure, but totally dressed like a cowboy. Scruffy werewolf hair, white t-shirt with a pack of Marlboro Reds rolled up in the sleeves, Levi's and cowboy boots. He didn't work there, but he'd occasionally come around wanting to borrow some tools or use the air machine. He was never a customer. He had a scratchy whiskey voice, and say, like an ever-present 1 o'clock shadow, he'd come through the door, "Hey John, can I use the air machine?" Had some crazy bloodshot eyes, and let me tell you, this dude looked like a werewolf. I'd never actually seen him eat liver snaps or anything like that, but I wouldn't doubt if he would. Wolfman Jerry was just one of the great nicknames that to emerge out of my friend Vince's family garage. They had a Bubba, they had a Butch, they had a guy called Paisano who would politely offer you a beer when you walked in. But he didn't buy the beer, so there was no skin off his nose. You know, "Oh, you want a beer?" You know, he was very hospitable. There was a little dude called Butterball, which later morphed into Butternuts. If you imagine this, he was a little person greaser. Kind of like Squiggy, but shorter yet. You would see him hanging around outside the Pleasant Mix Bar, which is across the street from the garage, in his snorkel jacket that everyone wore in the 70s. But he had overlong sleeves because he needed an overlarge jacket because he was kind of tubby. And then there was our dear departed friend Moki, a jolly round fellow with a big old beard that covered his face. He earned a second nickname, the Reverend Stay High. He enjoyed the weed like most of us in the old neighborhood of Brighton Park. He had a funky old primer brown van that he would drive around in, deftly rolling J's with one hand. You know, they had a little frisbee right over here. Safety first. Moki couldn't take the city anymore. He moved up to central Wisconsin with his wife, Barbara, in the late 80s. He was done with city life and lived out the rest of his years on a farm. Lots of other people tied to that garage had great names. Sebastard, Chowks, Rotsney, Kooks Halko, Moosehead, Chucky Puckmouther, Johnny Hick, Johnny Bad, and my friend RuPaul. His name is Paul, but one day he showed up wearing woman's glasses because his own had broken, so he borrowed a relative's. This guy Mickey started calling him RuPaul to make fun of his glasses, and it stuck. People don't call him anything but. There was a guy called Rhino. He had a brother called Little Rhino, his younger brother. Through some drunken mishap, Rhino got his leg shot off. And the guy who did it lammed out to Wisconsin and lived up there and never came back. I guess he wanted to avoid prosecution by the Endangered Species Act, you know, shoot a rhino. Johnny Law, man, you gotta watch out. And I almost forgot to, I'm gonna embarrass my friend. I almost forgot to mention another former Collision Experts employee, my friend Ruggs.
Ruggs.
Yeah. I thought he got his name from this big woolly fro that he had at the time, like a Juan Epstein fro. But it turns out that was not the case. He owned a steam cleaner and would clean van carpeting that people would spill beer on all the time. So he had a steam cleaner, he would charge people to clean their carpeting. So this guy Bubba at the garage started calling him Brother Ruggs, and it stuck, man. We call him Ruggs to this day. I see old friends of his now and then, and they go, "Oh yeah, Jimmy Sorge." Who the fuck is Jimmy Sorge? Maureen heard us calling him Ruggs when we started showing up here about 5 or 6 years ago. She said, "I think it's so cool. His name is Ruggs. I want to see you somewhere and call you. I have to say, hey, Ruggs." Well, of course you do. Nicknames would sometimes morph over time. One would change it to another. We had a friend, John Knoll. We called him Knox after his last name, Knoll. Paisano, the guy who would hand out someone else's beer, he thought we were calling him Chinooks after Chinook salmon that the guy fished for at the lakefront. So then we kind of like smoothed that out to Schnooks, and that's what we've called him to this day. Not really making fun of this guy, we're making fun of Pies who mistakenly call him the name. So that's the way that would work. For my earliest memories, nicknames were always around. My grandfather had tavern friends named Lefty and Red. My uncle had a buddy named Smooty. I thought it was a nickname, but it was the guy's real fucking name. He also had a buddy that they called Chibo. I recently asked my uncle where the name came from. He said his friend Mickey Panfill taught them a song in Bohemian. Does anybody have any knowledge of this, or in Czech language, about a fat guy named Chibo? And Mickey taught him this song, and they started calling Larry Chibo because he objected to his first nickname that they called him, Fat Larry. So, you know, Chibo really wasn't any better, so I guess be careful what you wish for. And there was a nice lady that lived across the street from us, one of these old girls that ran a perpetual garage sale, you know. You're not supposed to run them all year, it's a second-hand store and they want you to buy a license. One man's trash, you know. The thing is, I had known this lady for years before I ever knew her name was Bernice. Whenever my mom or grandmother spoke of her, they simply called her Fat Ass. And Tony Baloney lived down the street from us, on our side of the block. An older guy who would walk by your front porch, usually asking you something about your family business. I always said he had like the war room in the Pentagon, like pegs where he would move people like, you know, he always knew everyone's business. He'd come by with the scruffy dog asking you what was going on, kind of repeated words in a circle, maybe a little mentally challenged, but he was able to look after himself. Always coming by with a six-pack of his dog in his hand. And he never looked neglected, he always looked after himself, but sometimes Fat Ass, Bernice, would employ him doing handyman jobs around her house. We didn't have too many nicknames in grade school, strangely enough. There was a kid in kindergarten that we called Dimmy. You see, he was a Greek kid named Demetrius and didn't speak much English yet. Our teacher said that we'd call him Dimmy because Demetrius might be hard to pronounce, you know, for kindergartners. But that didn't make any sense. We lived in a Lithuanian neighborhood. We had friends named Arvydas, and Gintidas. You know, that we pronounced just fine. Personally, I don't think she liked Greeks, is what her problem was. She was Lithuanian as well. And my brother's friends now, who hung out on the front stoop of Richie's store, that was the real treasury of nicknames. Bean, Link, Tiff, Crash, Chops, Bear, Squirrel, Turtle, Richie Piatz, Schneider, named after Pat Harrington's character on One Day at a Time, aptly, too. He was that annoying. And Noodle, who got his name by slipping on noodle soup and falling down the stairs in grade school. They even gave my brother Mark the name Maynard, kind of a play on our last name Mayer, you know, so he had an honorary nickname as well. And then there's my old buddy Peanuts. Peanuts was a Brighton Park legend. He grew up near 38th and Richmond. Kind of a crazy little hood within a hood. Things were a little wild around 38th Street. A mean blues harp from an early age, blues harp player. He lived and breathed Muddy Waters, James Cotton, and Jake Giles Band. They were the perfect soundtrack for Peanuts' balls out life. Nuts, as we call him, was really one of my brother's friends. But I spent a lot of time jamming with him, you know, in bands and that. and just partying our asses off from the late 70s up until the late 90s when I kind of lost track of them. I used to stop by Nuts' house after a Tuesday night playing a gig at the Haven. I'd go over there and I'd have to work in the morning. I'd get to his house at 1:30 in the morning on a Tuesday, tap on the window, and I'd hear a blues bass line behind the door. Man, you'd walk in, somebody'd answer the door, you'd kiss all the women, do a big old line of blow, and within 2 minutes of walking in there, and then you try to get to work in like 2 hours or so. Well, that's the kind of lifestyle, you just can't keep up forever. But unfortunately, Peanuts never really saw it another way. He hit it hard right up until the end. We just lost him last year. We had a few funny nicknames in Curie High School. We did have a Wolfman kid there named Paul Falzone, who really looked like a Wolfman. But he was just a little cleaner. It was a better neighborhood, We had a baby Huey, a big Mexican kid who used to toss meat around like a rag doll. Had a guy named Springs, tall, lanky guy who also had springy hair. He had this springy walk. You could see him 100 feet away in the hallways. There was a kid named Skipper, kind of a chunky kid with a big belly. He wore those 70s t-shirts that you got from Sears, like with either like a red or blue stripes across it, And he walked just like the Skipper, He was a skipper. Another guy sticks in my memory. This guy, Small Paul. Small Paul was Marty Chazik's younger brother. Now, Marty was a small dude, but Small Paul was even smaller. That's the name. See, the thing is that Small Paul was just way cool. He wasn't the least bit bothered by being called that. He did his own thing. Everybody in his neighborhood around 54th and Pulaski at the time, in high school, 77, 81, they listened to Rush or the Scorpions or Blue Oyster Cult. He listened to the punk rock, Ramones, rode a skateboard where nobody else did. He had this straight chopped blonde hair, wore puka shells and some kind of Ramones t-shirt or something. I remember he had a pair of yellow Vans that he very carefully decorated with a Sharpie pen, put a checkerboard pattern on it. And he just whizzed by on a skateboard like, fuck you guys. I hope he wound up in California. That's totally where he belonged. What can I say? The kid was cool. When I moved to Berwyn and started playing and hanging around in a bar called Chances Are, there were a couple of good names there. When I first showed up there, they mentioned that if I heard someone talking about Pee-Pee Pants Mitch, they weren't talking about me. There was a different guy named Mitch who used to get drunk and piss in his pants there. I never did that there. They had a guy with kind of a gaunt face they called a crib keeper, a girl called Shirley Gacy, a guy they called Putty Man, whose face would do odd twitches and contortions.